Hello everybody, welcome back. We are here in Virgin Gorda, one of my favorite little airports in the Caribbean, and we're here today to take a look at the Just Flight Piper Tomahawk. And this is a pretty neat little airplane, and Just Flight has done a wonderful job with the PA-38 series, the Warrior, the Arrow. And so I'm really excited about this airplane. The thing that really appeals to me is the visibility out of the cockpit looks excellent. And so we're going to get a look at this airplane today. And let me get my head tracker set up. Now, it's got some really cool features. The tablet is pretty well advanced, actually, for compared to what I remember the Warriors and the Arrows being on the way out. And you can see what I'm talking about. You got a really nice, and I'm sure this would be a tight cabin in real life, but it's a really nice little cockpit here. One cool feature of this, of course, is the walk around, and I'm sure everybody's kind of done the whole walk around thing in their reviews, but we're going to have a real quick look at it, and I'll just show you a couple things that I look at that perhaps not everybody does. So let's open the, can I open the door? I know I can. Did I just latch it? No, I just opened it. Alright, we'll just let that be. So, let's get outside and have a look here. And, okay, there comes the door. So, kind of neat. I mean, the tablet sort of floats along with you. And I'm going to talk to you about one thing first off, which is flight controls free and correct. I know my flight controls are correct before I ever get in the airplane. And the reason is I have a little trick that I play with the ailerons when I'm doing my pre-flight inspection. Now, if I pull the aileron up, the flight controls, the yoke, should turn towards me, and the memory device I use is up towards me. So if I pull the aileron up, the ailerons you can see right here have turned towards me. And of course, if you push it down, they're going to turn the opposite direction. And actually, I can't really, well, maybe I can see them if I do something tricky, but I can't. So what I do is I stand in a position where I can look through from one side to the other. I stand at the end of the wing, actually, where I can look through from one side to the other, and I'll pull the aileron up, which that was, of course, down. I'll pull the aileron up, check to make sure that the yoke is towards me, and then I'll look to the other side and make sure this opposite aileron is down. So that way I know that my ailerons are correct before I get in the airplane. And so many people get that check wrong. And professional pilots, like that's one of the things that really irks me is when I see pilots do poor flight control checks, because a lot of times you're doing flight control checks and you're not checking the flight controls at all. So we'll check those. We'll come around to the front here. And so what I do when I'm down here, I also look at I'll also look from the end of the wing, and I'll just make sure the bottom side of the wing, there's no damage to it, because and also the underside of the ailerons and the flaps, because you could have damage from a rock kicking up or whatever, and you might not even know it. And this is your stall warning horn, your stall warning indicator right there. Look at that, it works. How cool is that? Didn't even know that. So what I'll do when I'm down here is I'm going to look at all three tires, and I'm going to look at all three tires every kind of position that I'm in around the airplane, and I'll look at the inside of the tire here on this side and on this opposite side, and make sure that the brake pad looks good and looks clean. I'll look over here and I'll make sure that this tire doesn't look deflated, it doesn't look damaged in any way. I'll take a look at this tire as well, and from this position, and I'll look at the tread, make sure the tread's okay, make sure this isn't flat at all. Make sure there isn't any brake fluid dripping down here. You also want to make sure that the pitot-static tube, that the holes in the pitot-static tube are open. And like I said, just look at the bottom side of the wing. Make sure the wing looks intact. And we'll come around here to the front. Now at the front, one of the things you want to do, first of all, they skipped a couple spots that I would stop at. These cowlings, you can flip them up, right? You can flip it up on this side and up on this side, which is great, because you can look at the engine. Some of the cowlings on Cherokees, on various different Cherokees or Arrows, are one piece, and so in order to look at the engine, you'd have to take the entire cowling off and put it on the ground, which is not very convenient, obviously. But with these, you can unlatch these and just flip them up. And actually, I wonder. No, no, no. Why did that happen? Okay, don't ever do that. Don't ever move the prop on an airplane. I know I'm going to hear comments telling me that you can. Don't do it. What I was trying to do is try to see if those latches would work. But anyway, there's the fuel strainer on the side. Nose fuel strainer, water quantity 0. You want to make sure there's no water in the fuel, which is a little bit more difficult than I can actually tell you. But anyway, these what do you want to call them, latches, you can undo these and then look inside the cowling. You can flip up the cowling and look in there. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you put these latches back, that they're correctly seated and correctly twisted back into position, because we actually just had somebody at our airport the other day who found their cowling half open. One of these latches was open during their pre-flight inspection. So gotta check those. Check the prop, make sure there's no dings or nicks on the prop. You also want to check the spinner, this is called, the nose cone. You want to check the spinner, because where these screws are, they can start cracking over time. So you got to look around that, make sure that's okay. Make sure your light is good. Make sure your starter motor looks okay. You look in here, make sure the belts look good. You look in here, make sure there's no what I call birds and wildlife. Make sure there's no birds and wildlife in there. And then again, you want to check your tire, make sure the tread is good, make sure this strut is extended properly. There's going to be there'll be a dist and a length in the POH. It'll tell you how far it should be extended, how much is too much and how much is too little. You want to check all those things. You can see that gear strut check. So we'll check that and we'll go to the next position. Again, this is a little better view of these latches here. So you unscrew this and then you pull it up and it unseats from right here. And so you just want to make sure those are seated properly, and make sure this is greased, that's not looking dry or rusted. And again, you look at the brake pad here, make sure there's nothing dripping. You want to make sure you don't see any liquid underneath your airplane. Those are not good things. This is the fuel vent. You want to make sure that vent is clear. Check your tires, obviously, etc., etc. We'll check all that stuff, and we'll go to the next spot. What do they want us to look at here? Okay, so here, let me hop back in the airplane. I can't. So again, pull this up, and then you can see the yoke is moving towards me. That's what I want to see. And I would be looking again through to the other side, make sure that the other side is moving in the opposite direction. Make sure I would actually put the flaps down and leave them down for the entire walk around. That allows you to look inside here. There's an attachment here for the flap. There's an attachment here for the flap, and you also can look inside from this direction towards this direction in here. See that there's some screws in there you can check, and you can also check in here. There's an attachment in there you want to check out, make sure that all looks good. Plane is looking good. from here, I would want to see, this is, actually makes it more convenient because the high T-tail, you can see the underside of the stabilator and make sure that there's no damage to that. It's less likely to be damaged on this type of a plane with a high tail, but like with a Cherokee, when it's down here, you want to get under it and look in there and make sure there's nothing in there that's damaged. Make sure there's nothing underneath it that's damaged. Can, you know, have a rock kick up from the tires or whatever. And this you can actually move the elevator and have a look at, which is good. You want to make sure that light is looking good. You want to make sure all of your antennas are looking okay. They're not broken, that sort of thing. And that's pretty good. Now, the last thing I would do, and this is something I don't see a lot of people do, and this is what an old pilot that I knew used to call a suicide prevention check. And what you do, so you've looked up close at all the aspects of the airplane, but sometimes you can miss the forest for the trees. Sometimes you can be looking at something very, very close and not see something that's really obvious. So what I like to do is I like to get about this distance away from the airplane, about 10, 15 feet away from the airplane, and I just walk around the airplane slowly, walk around the entire airplane. I'm looking for any liquid that's underneath on the ground, anything that might have leaked out of the plane anywhere. I'm looking for anything that's hanging down or dangling. I'm looking for any sort of damage. You know, I've got the flaps down right now. Are they both down the same amount? Is one of them down further than the other? Is, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of things you might not see looking close up. It just might not be that as obvious to you. So just walk around the airplane. I'm gonna get behind the bush there. Just walk around the airplane and just take a look at the overall picture of the airplane. You're looking at big picture here, and just make sure. And then the last thing I'll do is I'll walk in and make sure one more time. I'll check those two latches, and I'll check these two latches, because I really don't want the cowling flapping up in my face when I'm taking off. So that's how I would do a walk around. Doesn't take too much time, but very important to do, and to do properly. So without further ado, let's get rid of this thing, and we'll go. There is no rotating beacon on this airplane, so that takes out that fun. So what I'll do is I'll turn the nav lights on. And what happens, the reason I want to turn the nav lights on is because I want, when I turn on the master and battery switches, and I have added, you know, turn the electrical system on in the airplane, I want a light to be on, so that it's going to alert people around the airplane that there's, you know, that there's potentially something going on with this plane that you should pay attention to. Alright, rotating beacon on. There is no rotating beacon. Nav lights are on. Mixture full forward. Rotating beacon on. Mixture rich. Carb heat is cold. I'm trying to remember my checklist without having the first item available. Mixture's rich. Carb heat is cold, as you can see right here. Carb heat being off. Master and battery switches on, fuel pumps on. In some planes you would go magnetos on left, but in this particular plane you don't. It's got the starter turn there. The other thing I want to do is check whether there is a primer. No. Whatever I just turned, I don't want to have done that. So that's another thing, actually, another good point. Make sure all your fuses are in and seated. It's another really smart thing to do. So let's look here. I don't see a primer. Right, there's the fuel. Turn the fuel valve on. Flaps are up. The flaps down. Let's see here. trim, I usually like about 1 notch after neutral for most takeoffs, but we're not gonna just gonna leave that for right now because I don't know what it's supposed to be on this plane. All right, so we'll crack the throttles, toes on the brakes. Even though we've got the parking brake set, we'll take a quick look outside, make sure there's nobody outside to kill or maim, and we will engage the starter. Good start, 1000 RPM. First thing you want to check is oil pressure, and a lot of times the oil pressure will be down below the green, but you just want to make sure you got some oil pressure. Then keep an eye on that as the airplane warms up. Then we're going to lean the mixture for taxi so we don't foul the spark plugs. We're going to turn the avionics master switch on. Then we're going to turn the radios on, turn the altimeter on, and where's my yoke here? Oh, there we go. There's my yoke. Alright, and now what we're going to do is release the parking brake, toes on the brakes, and we're going to do, I'm going to latch these doors, even though I probably wouldn't do that in real life right now, simply because it's hot out. So I will open that window. Alright, mixture's leaned. And we're gonna get moving here a little bit. And ideally what I would like to do is get myself positioned into the wind here, at least a little bit, for the run up. These are air-cooled engines. The only thing that keeps them cool is, you guessed it, air. Alright, so we're going to then put the parking brake back on. I'm going to turn on my strobe because we're past the movement area light there. There's a sign. Alright, fuel's balanced on both sides. Oil pressure's good. Fuel pressure's good. Alright, fuel pump is on. Going to go mixture rich. Bring the RPM up to 2000. Toes on the brakes, even though I've got the parking brake on. Alright, we're going to go left magneto. Good drop. Back to both. We're going to go right magneto. Good drop within 50 RPM of one another. Back to both. Pull the carb heat. Good drop. That back in. Alright, oil pressure is looking good, oil temperature good, fuel pressure is good. Turn the fuel pump off. Fuel pressure is still looking good. And the suction on the gyro is at 5, which is good. So now we'll bring that back to 1000 RPM. And then what we want to do is a throttle idle check. Throttle idle check, you guessed it. Put the throttle to idle. And you just want that engine to hum. Hear that? Sounds nice, doesn't it? You just want it to run smoothly, because sometimes if you reduce the power to idle, and the engine's not warmed up, it's gonna sound hesitant, you know. And you just want to make sure that the engine's running smoothly at idle power, and what that tells you is that the engine's warmed up enough to fly. So we'll lean the mixture again. I do want to be burning off the left tank. Some people like to switch fuel tanks right now before they get going. I don't, and the reason why I don't like doing that, the other thing I really like doing is releasing my parking brake. The reason I don't like switching fuel tanks right before takeoff is because I know that this fuel tank has been working just fine. And the last thing I want to do is switch, because if you, let's say you switch tanks right now, and you can have just enough fuel in the fuel lines to get you airborne, and then when that fuel is exhausted, and let's say you've got a vapor lock, let's say you've got some sort of issue with the other tank, airplanes love ruining your day. They love ruining your day at the worst possible time. And so if I've got the engine running fine, I don't see any reason why I want to switch fuel tanks until I'm 3,000 feet above the ground. And when I'm 3,000 feet above the ground, if I switch fuel tanks at that point and something goes wrong, then I can deal with it. I can deal with it a whole lot better than I can at 300 feet. So, geez, I have full rudder right now. Got to use a little bit of opposite brake to get it back aligned here. The wind is a little bit squirrely. The weather should clear up once we get over towards St. Thomas. We're going to fly over to Culebra today. And one of the things we're going to do is explore the flight envelope of this airplane, because there's a couple things that I noticed on some other YouTubers' reviews that they didn't comment on that jumped out at me immediately as a real-world pilot. So whenever I see an airplane that is below the white arc and still flying along just fine, that doesn't make sense. So we'll have a look at that. And the last thing I'm going to do is something I didn't do back there where I should have, which is get ourselves lined up on center line. Heading indicator does check with the runway number. Let's do flight control check. Alright, we're up on that side, we're down on that side, up on that side, down on that side, all the way down on that side, all the way down on that side, all the way up on that side, all the way up on that side, and back towards me, and that elevator goes up, and we'll push it forward, and it goes down. That's what we like to see. So flight controls are free and correct. We are, let's see here, mixture is rich, fuel pump coming on, flaps are down. I don't want any flaps, I don't think. Alright, so we're going to do short, well, we're not, yeah, as a matter of fact, we are going to do short field takeoff, so we'll put a notch of flaps in. Alright, we are ready to rumble. Takeoff power is coming in. 2300, you can see it's at 23, but 100 tacho under reads by 100 at max, so we're actually at 24. So there we go, airspeed is alive. It's not as squirrely as it looks. It really is. What the heck was that? Huh? Well, that clearly didn't happen. So, hold on. Alright, let's try this one more time and take a look outside. I want to see if there's any obvious reason why, like, I forgot to remove something. It certainly doesn't look like it to me. Let me look back here. I mean, I can't figure out for the life of me what I might have overstressed the airplane with. Let's see. Condition 100%. Nothing attached. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that could have been. I really don't. So we'll just give it another go here and see what we get. Alright. I guess we'll leave the flaps down this time. We'll see. I mean, there's nothing that could have, in my mind, reasonably justify what just happened, but that's alright. Alright, mixture is rich. We've got the lights on. We've got the fuel pump on. Parking brake is off. And let's Let's bring in the power. Takeoff power is set. Let's release the brakes. One thing that's weird is you have to hold left rudder. I don't quite understand what that's all about. It should be right rudder, but... Alright, 65. Ease it off the ground here. Alright, so that's a little better. At least we managed to take off without crashing that time, which is always advantageous. Alright, engine instruments are looking good. Nice coordinated turn. Not a whole heck of a lot of power out of this airplane, but look at this. What a beautiful... See, and that's what I'm thinking. This is going to be a really nice VFR platform for sightseeing, and so far it is very much that. So we will be good neighbors and not fly directly over top of the island there, because we don't want to annoy people. We've got some localized showers off the nose here, which is fantastic. We're about 75 knots in the climb is pretty good. Always want to try to be a good neighbor when you're flying. Don't annoy people. People that live near airports, even though they should know when they move there that they are living near an airport, they oftentimes don't share the same attitude, and they can get upset if you fly over them too much. And since I like having airports being open, rather, I would just recommend being nice. Alright, and about 2,000 feet is going to be good for us today. At least until we get out past St. Thomas here. So far, everything as expected. Alright, nose coming over 2,400 is 2,400 is what I want. So getting that trim in here. Okay, that's pretty close. A little bit more nose down here. Alright, so here we are. Is what I would expect. I would expect this to be a very gentle, very easygoing sort of airplane. I want to burn out. If you watch, I'm just going to let go of the yoke for a second. And you'll watch, you'll see we've got this left. So I've found that airplanes, especially small airplanes in Microsoft Flight Simulator, are very, very sensitive to any weight imbalance, and so even though we've got a pilot and a passenger here, and the fuel is balanced in the wings, I wouldn't expect the P factor here to be that much that it's going to be turning the airplane like that. But anyway, what I want to do is burn some fuel out of the left tank. Make sure that we get try and get us back in balance here. Very much like the real weather is. I was looking at some local weather cams earlier today. There is Beef Island Airport. We flew in there the other day in a group flight. And it just occurred to me actually that this is also, there's Road Town, which is the capital of the British Virgin Islands. This is also my first flight in the new Sim Update 15 Beta 137.15. So, all is so far so good. This is Tortola here on our right. And then up here off the nose is St. John, and then out past St. John, right about our 1 o'clock there in the distance is St. Thomas. Picked this livery because it's got some Caribbean-ish colors. Once we get a little bit out past, I think we're pretty much past where these clouds are a little bit too much of a bother, because I want to show you the anomaly in the flight model that I've noticed in some other people's flights. And doing that requires a bit more altitude than we have right now. In an airplane like the Piper Cherokee, the stall characteristics are very, very gentle. You can stall, you can do stalls in a Cherokee at 3,000 feet, no big deal. In something like the 152 or the 150, I own a 150 in the Cherokee, and in the Cessnas they will bite you. You've got to get some more altitude in the Cessnas before you do slow flight installs. There was a when I got checked out in my 150 to get an insurance checkout with a flight instructor because I'd never flown one before. And the 150 is a great plane because the 152 in the sim is basically the same airplane, just has 10 more horsepower, which is monumental in that airplane. But anyway, when I was doing my insurance checkout, I did it with an instructor that I know very well, And he said to me, we did air work at 3,000 feet, which is, you know, steep turns and that sort of thing. And he said to me, if we're going to do slow flight installs, we're going up to 4,500 feet, because he knew, you know, that airplane is, if you stall it and you stall it uncoordinated, which means this ball is not centered, and it spins, you are going to have an interesting time, and you need the extra altitude to get yourself squared away. That is Jost van Dyke. Over there is the Sandy Dollar Beach Bar. Once we get past these little puffies right here, get up to like 3,000. Go back full power here, and this will give us a bit of a climb. So why does the airplane climb when you add power and don't change anything else? Because you have more energy in the equation, and the airplane wants to maintain its trimmed airspeed. Don't trim for attitude, you trim for airspeed. So right now, if I pull back on this yoke, get the airplane to 90 knots and then trim, that nose go down just a little bit. Yeah, let's do 85 knots, that's pretty good, actually, for fun. 85 knots right there. Now we'll climb it up to at least 3,000, maybe we'll do 3,500. And you can see the nose is coming back down. That's because the speed has gotten slow. It's down to 80. So the plane's going to pitch down to pick up some airspeed so we can get back to 85. And what it wants to do is chase that trimmed airspeed. And I'm going to go 3,500 because we can. Over there. There's our destination out there in the distance, Culebra. And once we get to 3,500 feet, what I'll do, pull the power and some flaps, and we'll do a power off stall, and I'll show you what didn't look right to me. Alright, so 50 feet lower cruise altitude. Let's put in that first notch of flaps. Bring that power back. Back to 1900. Let's just hold the airplane level. You can see the speed is bleeding off. Speed is bleeding off. Just put in some trim. Alright, I'll bring the power back to 1500. Hold level flight. Now see that see the airspeed right there? That is below the bottom of the white arc by a lot, and we're still flying. This airplane should have stalled a long time ago. Long time ago. I mean, we're below 40 knots in this airplane. Gotta keep that ball centered, little right rudder. I mean, there's no way this airplane should be flying right now. See the bottom of this white arc right here? That's the stall speed in landing configuration, in other words, with the flaps. So this airplane should not be flying. Should not be flying at all. See, I've got that ball centered using my rudder. And I mean, this is just 38 knots and it's not stalling. So bring some power back in. I'm not even full flaps. I mean, that's crazy. That is crazy. Alright. And the bottom of the green arc there is where it should stall with no flaps. So let me let the rudder out. Let the nose down. Nose down, get some speed. I'll put those flaps back up. Get some speed. Now let's do a power on stall. These are no fun in real life, by the way. Alright, full power. Now let's just pull the nose back until we stall it. Look at this. There we go. And you pull the power out immediately. Opposite rudder for the spin, and just gently bring the nose around and then bring the power back in. I'm even breathing hard in the sim doing that. I hate power on stalls. I hate them. I really do. They're not fun. You're only 17 degrees above the horizon when you stall in a power off configure, a power on stall, but it feels like you're straight up. It really does. Especially that one. I mean, it felt like we were just dancing right on just held up by the prop. All right, we'll go full power and bring the nose up. Stay coordinated. I'll just keep pulling back and keep pulling back and keep pulling back. See that speed bleeding off? There, it should stall already. It should stall already. See this? This is not possible. As long as I keep the rudder coordinated, the plane should not spin. I mean, this is not possible. This is literally not possible. 38, look at this, 36 knots. When is this thing going to give up? Alright, and power back. And you got that nose spinning right down through the horizon. Don't pull back hard. Let it come around and then bring the power in. So, as you can see, now we'll get coming back around towards Culebra again. Go 2300 RPM. As you can see from that, I mean, that's just not realistic. And I was watching. Alright, now let's get the nose down here. 3000. I was watching another YouTuber, not yesterday, well, it might have been yesterday. And they were coming into land, and they got down in here on the airspeed. They recognized that they were slow, but that's not to me that's not a situation where oh I'm slow. To me, that's a situation where you've got to ram the throttle in and just go around immediately. Ram that throttle in and just keep the nose down and get some speed. Because I mean, that if I ever was in an airplane, if I was in this airplane and I looked down on short final and I saw my speed down in here, I'd have a heart attack. Because that is, I mean, you should be stalled at that point. And, you know, being low to the ground, that is no good. That is no good. Do some steep turns here once we get out past the end of the island. See how the airplane handles that. But the stall characteristics are off. Only wants to spin one way. Yeah. But that doesn't bother me nearly as much as the fact that it doesn't want to stall at all. So we'll get out here a little bit and we'll do this looks good. Let's get a heading of 360 here. We'll do our first one to the right. Let's level off here. Alright, 3,000 feet heading at 360. And the goal is to back down to 3,000 feet first of all. The goal is to be able to do this 360-degree turn, roll out on heading and on altitude. We're going to lose some altitude on this turn anyway. So let's take a quick look around, make sure we don't see any conflicting traffic. And let's slowly roll into the turn. Give it some rudder. And it's going to want to drop the nose here pretty soon. Here's 180 degrees. Out about 330. Let the nose come down a bit because we're gaining some altitude. Alright, and we're back here at 360. And we'll go right into the left-hand turn. Get on that ball. And this one we're really going to get a nice steep turn. There's 45 degrees right there. Bring in some power if you start to drop altitude. I'm gonna keep that spot on the cowling right on the horizon all the way around. Alright, came out of it a little soon. And you're gonna pop up too. So let's try another one to the right. Try another one to the right. Gotta get right around into that 45. Keep an eye on your altitude, your airspeed. Make sure you're coordinated, make sure your vertical speed is okay, and you want to make sure you roll out on edit. 330. Alright, so let's see if we can do a 60-degree turn to the left. 60-degree turn is all the way down here. So let's roll into that left rudder. We're gonna want some power because this is a very, very steep turn. Alright, so there's some power. There's 60 degrees. Whoa, that's gonna be, yeah, I see that we're dropping altitude like crazy. Come out of it, roll into the right hand 60-degree turn. I don't have the guts to get all the way there. There we go. Alright. Whoopsie. Yeah, that's poor. And power out and nose down. Alright, so I mean, if anything, I would say that I would say that those are a little bit easy. So we'll come here to 2300. If anything, I would say those are a little bit easy. Alright. So, steep turns, I mean the 60-degree steep turn is pretty intense. 45, not so bad. So let's see here. Alright, oil pressure is good, oil temps are good, fuel pressure is good. Get some of that fuel burning out of that left tank, which is what we want. And let's head into Culebra and do a landing. I haven't flown this airplane in real life, and it is a about 200 RPM. If you want to start a nice gentle descent in any small airplane like this, any single engine piston, just pull out 200. Just pull out 200 RPMs, and you should get about a 3 to 400 foot per minute descent. Just nice and gentle, nice and easy. It's going to seek the airspeed again here. But like I said, I haven't flown this airplane in real life, but the stalls are definitely not correct. I mean, they got the snap part right, because they don't call this thing the Tomahawk for nothing. But it should stall at a much higher airspeed. You know, we're not anywhere. We might be somewhat near max gross weight. The heavier the airplane is, the slower the stall speed. And so these are the stall speeds at maximum gross weight. 48 with the flaps down, 52 with the flaps up is what I'd call it. But in any event, it should have stalled way sooner than it did. And like I said, I would consider those steep turns pretty easy. Not that I did them very well, even though they were easy. I mean, I would say that the 45-degree turn, the 60-degree turn was challenging. Like if I really wanted to brush that up and clean it up and get good at them in this airplane, I can do it very easily. I would just have to spend a half hour doing those, and I'd have them pretty tight. But it should, in my estimation, the 45-degree turn should have been about as hard as the 60-degree turns were, and they were not. So, go mixture rich. Didn't have it cleaned. Just casually turned my fuel pump off, pretending I hadn't left it on the entire flight. I should have turned the fuel pump on for maneuvers anyway, so let's just assume I did that. And great weather. You can see the localized showers. See the localized showers. I want to see if I can figure out here what the winds are at Culebra right now. Winds at Culebra again. 050 16 gusting 26. Alright, well, this is going to be an adventure of a landing, I'll tell you that, if those winds are correct. So not as good a view outside as, say, the Diamond, where you've got the bubble canopy. But the downside of the bubble canopy is that, number one, you're getting cooked in there, and number two, it's very difficult to, the sun can be kind of relentless. So power back to 1900. Bring the nose up here. Airplane into the white arc. Which is there. First notch of flaps, which is there. Let's power back in. Really like about 75 knots here. Alright, let's go 17 on the power. Alright, mixture's rich, carby is cold, fuel pump is on. 1 degree of flaps in, or 1 notch of flaps in. Look at that rain, how cool is that? I'm pretty happy with that speed. I want to trim now to get that speed. To nail that trimmed airspeed right there at 75. An airplane that's in trim is much, much easier to fly. A little bit more power out, pull the nose up just a little bit more. Alright. Nose drop here a little bit. Flaps, man, it just punches that nose down. Let me put the flaps in. I don't want anything less than 70. and short final here because this is if this wind is as bad as they say it is. Zero 50. Right now it's like a quartering tailwind. Some raindrops here. My headpiece set. So 050, so this is basically a quartering tailwind. Eye on that airspeed. You can feel it. It's just quartering tailwinds feel weird. It's not going to be quite a direct crosswind by the time we're done. You see that speed getting down to 65. I don't like that. Let's get some power in here. Aim kind of for the left side of the V because I'm going to get pushed over to the right anyway. Happier with my energy state right now, about 70 knots. I know what I don't want to do is get in this V and start getting thrown around and not be able to do anything about it. Power out a little bit. Power out a little bit more. Alright. Keep an eye on that airspeed. That's the thing I'm really concerned about right now. Boy, a weird feeling. Better than it deserved. Better than it deserved. Now just pull that yoke right back into your stomach. That's going to help you brake. Better than it deserved. That landing. Lean the mixtures here, we'll put the flaps up now that we're off the runway. Better than it deserved, but that was a fun little... I would have taken one look at those winds in real life and said, nope, not doing that. But in the sim, it sure is fun. Alright. Let's set the parking brake. Mixture to idle cutoff. Throttle is idle. Turn our lights off. Avionics master off. Let's turn our radios off here. That should be off. Oh, there we go. Radios should be off. I did turn them off. But that's alright. Master and battery switch is off. I never turn the fuel valve off, but we'll do it. And parking brake is set, so we will now unlatch and open the doors. Why isn't the door opening? Not a latch up here, is there? I don't believe so. Huh. For some reason the doors won't open. Could have sworn they did before, but they are open. Alright, anyway. So, fun little airplane. It's I mean, it's something I would fly for sure. You know, good alternative to the 152. Um, Needs a little flight model work, but handles as expected. Um, Pretty much. I mean, it should have a nice heavy feel to it with the T-tail, and it does. Um, so yeah, not a bad little airplane. Really not a bad little airplane if you're in the market for small single engine GA trainer, especially for flight training. And yeah, so I'm curious to see what you guys think. Let me know in the comments, and I hope everybody's having a great day.